Of course.
Swallow
Thank you
that
for...
No, I didn't mean it like that.
Yeah.
And we're live, of course.
Hello and welcome
to a Movie Boozer virtual pubcast.
With actual booze.
I am Ken Ekman.
And,
well, not me.
And
I'm Bill Arsenault.
And I'm Hawk Ripjaw.
And I'm Bill Leon.
There you go.
that was pretty good.
And I'm Morley Safer. And welcome to 60 Minutes.
Yeah.
What's weird is that was not a Morley Safer impersonation. That was really more of an Andy Rooney. So.
Oh, the guy from Conan O'Brien, right? That was a bad joke, by the way.
Wow. Okay, we got off to a wonderful start. So this is Ken Ekman, and we're here to talk movies again.
Yes.
Once again, after a week-long break, we're back.
Yes.
It was a week-long, right? It was we broke from last week because just various reasons, but
life happened. Yeah.
Yeah, stuff happens, and
Yes, life happens. It will continue to happen, and
life itself.
Oh,
let's not think about that movie.
Or there's life itself.
Which one? There are two life.
Oh yeah, the good one is the Roger Ebert one. The bad one is the one that just came out this year.
Mm.
The one that I sorely wish that Roger Ebert had been able to see, because
wouldn't that have been great if he had reviewed it at some point?
Oh, he would have destroyed that movie.
Well, we don't know. He saw The Happening and he loved The Happening.
He gave Lakeview Terrace a good review.
I actually like Lakeview Terrace too.
He gave a good review to The Losers.
Not that that means anything. Not that I'm comparable to Roger Ebert. I'm just saying I think Lakeview Terrace was a fun movie. But it was a fun movie, yeah.
It is weird. But didn't he kind of pick up on The Happening's like satirical edge?
A little bit in the review, but he was mostly focused on its global warming type message.
Okay.
Which the movie didn't really have. It was mostly just the environment is pissed off and it wants to kill everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't fuck with trees. Because trees.
Yeah, it sort of had to do with global warming, like, you're fucking with the environment, but it wasn't really clear cut what the motive of the plants was.
Yeah.
The twist ending is that the Lorax got a hold of that hat from Fantasia.
Yeah.
Yes.
But does Sean Connery show up and say, "You're mucking with the trees, pal"?
Or show up in a furry costume and
my wife.
It's controlling the weather,
God.
Sometimes a woman deserves a good smack.
I'm the man now, dog.
I'm the man now?
Yeah, he's the man now, not you're the man now anymore. He's got the furry costume on. He smacks women around. I'm the man now, dog.
I'm a dog now, man.
I'm a dog man now,
yes,
lady. Yes, you are correct.
So, the house that Jack built.
Yes.
It does not star Sean Connery that we know of. Could be a big comeback.
But it does have Bruno Gans.
Yeah, it does have Bruno Gans. But the start of this podcast has mostly just been baby gibberish, which is surprising to me. Like that we've devolved so far. Usually these introductions have some more weight to it. Today it's just goo goo gaga.
And it's, damn it, that would have been perfect for when we reviewed Bohemian Rhapsody, because Radio Gaga.
Oh yeah.
Boo.
Are you booing my attempt to tie this into a movie?
No, he's saying boo earns.
No, I'm booing your attempt to tie it into Bohemian Rhapsody. Bohemian Rhapsody, I should say.
Oh. Wow. All right.
Did you see Bohemian Rhapsody?
No, fuck that.
Okay.
I have a screener for that.
Fuck that movie, even though it's actually pretty good, and if you watched it, you might be surprised.
Is it pretty good, though? Is it? I don't know.
It's 50-50.
Look, okay, fine. Let me walk it back a little bit. I can't say fuck that movie because I haven't seen it. That's not fair, but I'm probably...
I know the reason why you're against the movie, and the reason why you're against the movie means you're holding one person over an entire production that dozens of other people had a lot invested in, including the career of someone who
I was going to say, if you
gave the performance of a lifetime, and it's really unfair.
Look, okay, I love Rami Malek. I have seen every single one of his movies in theaters except for that one and the prison movie.
Papillon?
Yeah.
Papillon? Yeah.
I own every season of Mr. Robot on Blu-ray or digital. He has gotten my support in his entire career, including all 3 Night at the Museums, which I saw in theaters. So I believe I deserve a pass on this one.
Yeah, let's be easy on him.
Catch it on streaming.
Yeah, I will rent it on Amazon I will rent it when it's available. I will do that.
So the house that Jack built.
Yes, tell us about
I love how we're moving on from this introduction into a movie that's so repulsive, and just in how it's played out. You know, it's about a serial killer, 12 years in this, or a decade in the serial killer's life, and it's played like a fucking Farrelly Brothers toilet humor movie.
Oh God, by Lars von Trier, by the way.
Lars, this would be his. This is comparable to There's Something About Mary, which also starred Matt Dillon. So
oh God,
this could be like a related in some way.
A Lars von Trier sex comedy. Now that's
well, it's not. It doesn't really have. No, they don't. They never get into sex. I think this character is actually very sexless. He doesn't really occupy himself with thoughts of sexuality. He probably has had sex in his life, but he's more focused on being a psychopath.
Didn't Lars von Trier did make a straight comedy? Well, not really a straight comedy.
The Idiots, right?
What?
Idiots, right?
No, it was something else. The Boss of It All, was that von Trier?
Oh, yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think you're right. I think he did do a straight comedy. He's kind of a weird filmmaker, but what is constant in him, in his catalog, is being provocative. You know, being a provocateur, if you will, a provocateur auteur.
And you and I were talking about Lars von Trier the other night and how he kind of just does things both in life and in film just to see what people are going to do.
Yeah, he's kind of the...
He's a troll.
He's definitely a troll.
In college, me and my friends used to come up with story ideas, and also we would come up with ideas because we ran a film screening series for the college. We would come up with presentation ideas that would literally exist just to fuck with any student that came in. Like, what movie could we show that would drive someone away? Was basically it. And
Caligula.
Well, no, we showed Sallow on a night when we.
I knew it.
On a night when we were going to show something else. I think the other thing was Napoleon Dynamite.
That's perfect.
Sorry, we lost a copy of Napoleon Dynamite, but we got Sallow. You know,
if you like Napoleon Dynamite, you'll love Sallow.
Yeah, this was back before the Netflix algorithm kicked in. 2005, 2006. You know, so it was also, and we were in a weird headspace because it was pre and post Katrina. So you know, but anyways, the house that Jack built, I won a online Facebook contest from the Overlook Film Festival. I won 2 passes to see the unrated cut, which was, as we found out during the screening, it was a violation of the MPAA to have viewed it, or not just to view it, but to set it up. You know, Von Trier and IFC got in trouble for it, and you know, but nonetheless, I got to see it with a friend of mine. The room was fairly packed, and I would describe this as like Dante's Inferno meets There's Something About Mary meets, what's the third movie? Something with a serial killer in it. Something like really
American Psycho.
Not quite American Psycho. Something worse. You know, something more.
The American
visceral.
Psycho novel?
Probably, yeah.
Have you read the novel American Psycho?
I've read some of it. Yeah, I couldn't.
Yeah, that's the one where I had to just set it down every couple of chapters because it is amazing how fucked up that could come out of Bret Easton Ellis's head,
or anyone's head for that matter.
Yeah,
but especially that guy, because he's already kind of messed up in a good way, I guess. Because for our entertainment,
I mean, kind of.
The movie is the framing device of the film, and it's very vague at first as to what is going on, but it's basically a conversation between Matt Dillon, who plays Jack, a serial killer, and this is set during the 70s, and another character played by Bruno Ganz. I won't give away his name or anything like that that might be a hint to what his relationship is with Jack or anything like that. But they're having basically a philosophical conversation over Jack's deeds over the course of his serial killing life. And the movie begins with I'm trying to remember exactly how it begins. It has like 5 incidents over the course of the movie that are supposedly picked at random by Jack that he's retelling or reinterpreting even. So they may not have gone down exactly the way that they happened, but this is how Jack remembers them. And each of these are different murders or even multiple murders within the same incident. First one is Uma Thurman. That should be the obvious one because we see that in the trailer. Although they cut really quickly in the trailer, but here we don't cut. You see the full impact of everything. The makeup effects are pretty great, to the point that your stomach will churn. Like this rivals Suspiria to me in terms of visceral impact.
Okay.
But there is something lost between Suspiria and this movie that dropped it down a couple scores for me. I don't hate The House that Jack Built. In fact, I think it's a good movie. It's just it's better. It's certainly better than something that's comparable, which would be a Serbian film. A Serbian film is technically well made, but it's a movie that I find highly repulsive and will never watch again. This movie is repulsive, but I could inevitably watch it again. Like it's easier to stomach, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Even the unrated cut, and I can probably pick out the scenes that are going to be cut from this film, because there were moments where a couple people walked out, and there were moments where people gasped, and there were moments where people went, "Oh man, why did they have to show that?" So like there were people disappointed, like, "Man, why did you have to do that, Trier?
I gotta show that scene."
I don't want to give away anything. I will.
I'm kind of curious. I'm a little curious as to what prompted a walkout, but I don't know if Hawk wants to hear that.
Well, some of it I think was stylistic choices, specifically during the conversations he's having with Bruno Ganz. In these sequences, we don't see either Jack or Bruno. We just hear them in voiceover. Sometimes it's a black screen. Sometimes it's a photograph or a video piece. Like, for example, we might see a video of Hitler doing a speech. And, like he lays it on pretty thick, like metaphorical stuff. Or some symbolic stuff even, or someone playing a piano, like my art is my killing, or my killing is my art, shit like that, And Bruno's like, "Stop it, Jack! You're making excuses." That's basically their conversation. Bruno's like, "But what about love, Jack? What about love in art?" And Jack's like, "Fuck that." That's basically the conversation. If we were to boil it down to bro-isms. It's a lot more articulate than what I just described, but I would say there were maybe 1 or 2 walkouts during one of those scenes, which I think the walkout was prompted by the artsy fartsy nature of what we were watching, yeah, right. And the other walkouts had to do with the direct visceral content of what was happening in a scene, specifically with a murder. This movie is built. If you don't already know, there's like a couple reports online of people saying, kids get murdered in this film, and women, and this happens and that happens. There's an animal that gets mutilated, and so on and so forth. And I'm like, well, it's not real. It's still very disturbing, but it's not real. Specifically the animal that got mutilated, it had its foot cut off. Yeah. It was a little duckling. That was like a rope, like a little doll or something. It wasn't real, Obviously,
that scene was actually praised by PETA.
They praised that scene. They said, like, look, psychopaths, or people who become serial killers or murderers, that's usually how they start. They start by torturing little animals, little things that they can get away with, Well,
they also really impressed with the fact that they made it convincing, but also fake. Like the movie passed their test of not harming animals, and they were like, oh, the way that they executed that was the right way to do a movie. Good job.
I would agree with that. I would also say Von Trier is not he's not the kind of person who would. I mean, he did an intro video of this for this cut, and he was visibly shaking with anxiety.
Yeah,
like which he normally does whenever he does like a 15-second promo, which he has done in the past. Like he did one for Nymphomaniac, and he was shaking like crazy. This time he was shaking too, and he ended it by saying, "Never another Trump." I was like, "Oh, wait, is that going to play into the movie?" And not really, but it kind of does in a way, like in a superficial way, maybe. But that being said, there are the on the other side of the equation, there are disturbing images with regards to the death and mutilation of children, and the what's the word that I'm trying to go for? It has to do with messing around with a corpse. Not necrophilia. He doesn't get into that. This movie is not like that, but he does manipulate corpses that are cold. I don't know if there's a word for that.
I mean I don't know. I mean the corpse would have rigor mortis.
Yeah, it has to be like it's like a disrespectful act. It's not disemboweling. That's different. It's there's a specific word for it that I really like. What's that?
Fornication?
He doesn't fuck the corpses. He's not a sexual character. Defile, yes. Okay, that's a good one. I like that. He defiles the corpses in a couple ways. Yeah, defile. He defiles the corpses in a couple ways, but not in ways where he's like making fun of them. Actually, no. In one way, he does do it, but he sees it as art. He sees it almost like, oh, this is something to appreciate, And then that put the one in particular that he does, which I'm not going to spoil, but he does. I mean, he uses hooks and he uses knives and all sorts of shit to manipulate the body because obviously rigor mortis is set in, and the body's in a meat locker, so the body's like frozen. So he has to really like use some muscle to do it. And when he does it, the effect is so gruesome. I mean, it's that image stays with you. And the even more shocking thing is the image comes back later in the movie when like it's reaching its conclusion, and you see like everything come back. And I'm not going to, I'm trying very carefully not to give much away, but it's in the background, and it's like, oh my God, that thing is still there. It's like it's like a poster in a kid's room, like a rock band poster.
All right.
Like this is my favorite 80s band or something, it's like that, but it's also just a poster, it's not like it's something he's going to play with. It's something he's going to look at.
Okay.
On occasion, if he's pointed in that direction. Like if he's sitting down in his chair, like I am in my desk, and I'm looking at my Kill Bill and Death Proof posters, it's more because you're in that direction. It's not because, I want to look at these, and that idea was kind of disturbing to me, like he spent all this time crafting this body to look a certain way, and then he puts it in one place, and then that's it forever. It's just defiled, and that's the end of that. It's really fucked up. So we go through the 5 incidents of the film, and then the film has an epilogue because Von Trier likes to play with chapters. He's been doing that for several films now. I think since Antichrist, possibly before that. And there are 2 songs that play very heavily into this film. I don't think I'm going to give away the second song, but the first song, it was in the trailer. It was Fame.
Right.
Fame. That thing.
Okay, so the David Bowie Fame, not the song Fame from the play.
No, not the...
I want to live forever.
That would actually, that would not have been out of place.
Okay.
I'm being very serious here because the second song is so out of place that it's in place.
Nice. I like that.
What I mean? Like it's at the very end. In fact, it's over the end credits, and it plays throughout the end credits, and everyone in the theater was like, "What the fuck?" Why is it this song? And it's the most obvious song you can think of, but at the same time, it's like it's so obvious that you would think of the song that a director would not do that.
Dude, it's so obvious that it's like not obvious at all.
he fucking did it, you know. And it wasn't a fuck you to anyone necessarily. Maybe to Jack, I don't know. I think ultimately Von Trier hates the character of Jack, but I don't think. I think at the same time he kind of identifies with some aspects of him. But
that sounds like something Von Trier would do.
Like, I think the character of Jack is very much a vessel for Von Trier's artistic ideas and tendencies, but I think he's also a Bruno Ganz kind of character, you know, someone who's, you know, trying to argue against that type stuff. Matt Dillon does a great job here. He's more Matt Dillon than he is any character, but I think I'd be willing to bet this character was written specifically for Matt Dillon, like a too cool for school kind of guy, you know, who you can imagine, you know, like we were just talking about before the broadcast, smoking a cigarette, like, I don't care.
I'm pretty sure that was the case. It was written specifically for him.
Yeah. And he does act. He's not just being a personality. There is acting to him in this. He's doing a lot of things honestly, you know, like he's in a heightened kind of way, but it's never over the board. You know, it's never overboard. It's never like he's never like chewing the scenery necessarily. He's mostly just in the moment. There's one incident, I think it was the second incident in the film that he describes, which was one of his early murders. He goes up to a woman's house and he's trying to convince her to let him in. And it plays like a fucking improv comedy from The Office. You know, like he's like, well, ma'am, I'm a police officer and I'm trying to, you know, find out about this thing that happened. And she's like, where's your badge? He's like, well, you got me, ma'am. I'm actually an insurance agent. And blah, 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 blah. And, you know, and the camera zooms in every once in a while, like a snap zoom to get a reaction shot. And it's just like The Office, when The Office would do that, you know, snap zoom thing. And everyone in the audience was like falling over themselves laughing. Like, this is so fucking awkward and weird, you know? And when he does the murder, they were still laughing. I even found myself chuckling at it, but I was repulsed by my chuckling because I was like, wait, we're watching a murder. I mean, in the context of the story. Obviously, it's not real. In the context of the story.
It's like watching American Psycho, where you kind of start rooting for him. And
yeah.
The absurdity of it all. Like the end where he finds himself in one of the World Trade Towers and he's literally just shooting everybody.
Yeah.
He shoots a security guard, he kills a dog, he does this, he does that, he's running away from everyone. Then he calls up his lawyer, he's like, oh, I ate someone and I did this and that. So
and his lawyer just laughs at him.
Yeah, right. Like, it's just like he got away with it. You know, there's no consequence to any of his actions.
Or if you take the other meaning, the entire thing was a figment of his imagination.
Yeah, it more than likely was.
Although I prefer to think that he actually did want to feed a stray cat to an ATM.
I mean, it's all kind of how you look at it.
He probably wanted to do that, but you know, if we were to take that movie as being real, we'd also have to take American Psycho 2 as being real. So
why
I like to think
that movie doesn't exist.
American Psycho 2 is not an American Psycho film. It was a different serial killer film that the studio said, hey, now it's called American Psycho 2.
Same thing with An American Werewolf in Paris.
And all of the Die Hard sequels except for the most previous one.
The most previous?
The most previous one? Yeah. Which one was that? I don't know.
The most recent.
Not Live Free, Die Hard.
The fucking shitty one. The
Good Day to Die Hard.
It takes place in Chernobyl.
But let's think about this for a moment. Wouldn't most previous mean the first Die Hard because that was the oldest?
Yeah, no, I misspoke. the most recent.
Unless you want to call that Frank Sinatra movie that was based on the same novel series that Die Hard was based on.
There was what?
Oh yeah, I know.
Oh, you haven't heard this? Yeah. So Die Hard was based on a series of novels, and the detective that it's based on. There was a movie that Frank Sinatra starred in. Called Just the Detective, and they actually contractually had to offer him the role of John McClane first because of that. He, of course, said no because he was really old when it happened. But can you imagine if Frank Sinatra was John McClane?
No.
Can you imagine if Frank Sinatra was John McClane in Live Free or Die Hard?
Oh, God.
Well, first of all, he'd be a corpse.
No, if he was still alive, I would love to imagine Frank Sinatra launching a police car off of a ramp into a helicopter to blow it up while he jumps out of it.
He'd break his hip.
My pants.
Oh, my pants. So the house
My pacemaker failed.
My diaper's getting too heavy.
All right.
Okay, all right. I think we've done defiling the legacy of Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
Although
Fair
technically that's the reality of it. I mean, if he gets older, and he ends up incontinent, that's what's going to happen, But
well, he was a man of the world, so of course he'd want to be winding up incontinent.
Yeah, right.
All right.
So ultimately, very good movie. It's not something that's unwatchable, like in multiple viewings. However, it can be a hard watch. At least this unrated cut was. Still, I was very appreciative, of what Von Trier was doing. I can't say this will make my top 10 or 20 or even 30, but or that I would want to really. I already have Cannibal in my top 20, and that's a fucked up movie without even showing a single murder.
Right.
It's just about a guy talking about a murder, and it's it's a documentary. So
don't tear down the house that Jack built.
No, the house that Jack built. No, it's a good movie. I think a lot of people will like it. I certainly did like it too. I just wouldn't rate it I rated it on the way that I would rate Fast and Furious 7. If that makes any sense. I rated it like it was more like a thrill picture that was just stupidly fun. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
I rated
Furious 7 was an emotional journey, my friend.
It was in a way, but it was also a silly movie too.
Oh yeah.
The House that Jack built, while it gets at some pretty heavy stuff, is also a silly movie. Like I said before, it's a Farrelly Brothers film if Von Trier decided to make one of those.
Speaking of a silly film, A Christmas Chronicle, or the Christmas Chronicles, or the Chronicles of Narnia, the Christmas story.
The Christmas Chronicles is the new Netflix joint.
Excuse me, that was a brisk iced tea.
Is it just me, or has Netflix put out a Christmas movie every year for a while now?
Netflix puts out a Christmas movie
every
day of December. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
We actually have multiple Christmas movies from Netflix this year. So.
Including some before December.
Yeah, right.
They're also putting out a sequel to The Christmas Prince.
Oh, that was so bad. Oh my God. I forgot that existed.
Yeah. I now have to watch it because
I'm going to set this one out, buddy. You're on your own.
People have been retweeting my year-old tweet about The Christmas Prince incessantly. And now Felix got the train going of he's going to watch the sequel now. But I'm going to do it because I like trash. I fucking hate myself. And that's why I watch bad movies. But The Christmas Chronicles is a movie about basically the log line of this movie is Kurt Russell stars as Santa Claus.
Yeah, my mom watches CBS regularly, and they were featuring this on Entertainment Tonight and shit. They put some money into the advertisement for this.
So here's my question:
They put the CG for it based on the trailer.
Is this a kids movie?
Yes.
All right, that's the problem.
Swear?
That is the problem. Bill A, what'd you say?
No, Bill A. I said that they didn't put money into the CG. It looked like.
Oh yeah.
CG is not bad. There are some CG elves that look kind of crappy, but that almost feels like it's by design. What this movie is about is this family celebrates Christmas every year, and one year the dad passes away before Christmas, and the brother and sister they fight all the time. And one day the sister is reliving her nostalgia of one Christmas Eve, and all of a sudden she sees what looks like Santa's arm reaching out of the chimney to drop a present beneath the tree. And she decides that she's going to recruit her brother, and they're going to prove that Santa Claus exists. And they stay up all night, and they do successfully see that Santa Claus exists, and they sneak onto his sleigh. And as he's flying back towards the North Pole, as accidentally make him aware of their presence. He's startled. The sleigh tips and crashes, and the reindeer run off. And basically, what this sets up is that every year, Santa bringing Christmas to everybody is kind of what keeps the world's good vibes in balance. So if basically Christmas does not happen, it will be total anarchy across the world. Like,
I have an idea for how this could be made way more interesting by turning it into like a social satire. Instead of like good vibes, what if it was Christmas exists to keep the world's economy going?
well, they kind of say that.
I mean, that's not that far from real life.
Right,
They say that
exactly.
in
But what if it was like a thing where like Santa Claus can't do Christmas, and so the Great Depression too happens?
Well, hold on. That's what I'm trying to say. They kind of say that in a kids movie sense.
Okay.
Like basically, the cause of all horrible world events were because of a lack of Christmas spirit.
Oh God.
Oh no.
Do they go there? Do they do the World War II Holocaust thing?
I don't know if they specifically call that out, but I'm pretty sure he said wars or something like that. But they make it very kid friendly, where basically it's like, very bad things will happen if Christmas does not happen. And Santa Claus has a watch that has a scale on it for how much Christmas spirit is left in the world, and it's starting to dwindle throughout the movie as he's falling further and further behind on delivering presents. So like you said, Ken, like the biggest problem is that this is a kid's movie because Kurt Russell acts the shit out of Santa Claus. Like he puts as much effort into this role as he did into The Hateful Eight. It's not the same type of character, but it kind of feels like it because he has the same beard. But like he certainly does not bring anything less than his A game to the entirety of the role of Santa Claus. And this is probably, to date, my favorite cinematic version of Santa Claus.
Do you think the producers of the film, like Chris Columbus, I guess is one of them, do you think they like saw his beard and were like, they said, all right, before he wraps production on Hateful Eight, we got to sign him to play Santa Claus. Otherwise, he's going to shave his beard and we're going to have to find someone else.
I don't know about that, but that might have been the inspiration because he does kind of feel like the Hateful Eight character, except he doesn't punch as many women. What?
Because he punched that one woman.
I know, but he punches her several times in the movie. I mean, like...
So what he's saying is he does not punch a woman in this movie.
Ken, I just want to point out that if they'd really signed him for this from Hateful Eight, this movie would have been in production for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Let me just say that this feels like the sort of film that was made 2 years ago and Netflix bought the rights to because they failed to find anyone to distribute it.
I don't know about that. It's
you can market trashy Christmas movies. Like look at Lifetime Network.
Yeah.
Hallmark Channel.
Or ABC Family. That's what I meant to say that instead of Lifetime.
Freeform.
But no, I just want to clarify that, like in the Hateful Eight, like the violence against what's her face got to the point where it was kind of uncomfortable.
Jennifer Jason Leigh.
So it's kind of weird in this movie seeing it looks like the same character and he talks similarly, but he's also like he's friendly Santa Claus, but he is a little bit rough around the edges. Like he gets pretty pissed off when his sleigh first crashes. He's like, "You guys are on the naughty list for life," and then he storms away. But so the kids have to help him find his reindeer and save Christmas. Everything involving Santa Claus in this movie is awesome. Everything not involving Santa Claus kind of sucks. So you get a movie that's at odds with itself, where whenever he's not on screen, it's just the kids. It's like, oh, okay, it's this boring, regular family movie shit. Like it happens in every fucking Christmas movie with kids, and it gets old after a while. But then this Kurt Russell's version of Santa Claus is so fresh and fun that it's really hard to hate the movie whenever he's on screen. So there's a part where they go into a bar, and there's like people passed out drunk on the counter, and Santa Claus walks up to the lady at the podium, and he greets her by name and says, "Oh, so I guess that whole interior designer thing didn't pay off, huh?" And so like he goes around to each person in the bar, and he knows exactly who they are. At one point he talks to this guy in a Hindu language. Then he talks back to him in the same Hindu language. He's like, "Yeah, and I speak English, idiot." And so everybody's being a dick to Santa Claus in this bar. Nobody wants to help him and give him a ride or anything. And then they steal a car. Santa Claus and the kids steal a car. And Santa Claus uses magic for a lot of stuff. Everything that he does is just great. And there's a couple of just fantastic non sequiturs, which I don't know if you guys are planning on seeing the movie, but I won't spoil it if you are, because some of the random stuff that Santa Claus does is just kind of sublime, especially with it being Kurt Russell. He goes to prison at one point.
Of course.
So, in other words, this is Ernest Saves Christmas, but instead it's Kurt Russell is Santa Claus.
I don't think it's like that, but
no,
because Santa Claus goes to jail in Ernest Saves Christmas. Damn it!
Santa Claus goes to jail.
He does.
Yeah, I know he does, but I mean, yeah, you're right. And
then Ernest has to dress as the Snake Man to save him.
I mean,
he doesn't dress up like that old grandma.
In this movie, Santa Claus breaks himself out of prison.
But okay. He can go into chimneys and stuff, so he's a locksmith kind of.
Yeah, and the movie actually does show some of how Santa Claus is able to deliver all these presents and work his magic. Like, he opens up like a time portal to the North Pole, and he goes down to this like wormhole where the different landmarks of the world are flashing past him, like the Taj Mahal and the Eiffel Tower. When he jumps into a chimney, he like does a front flip into the air, then turns into like a stream of red dust and like shoots down into the chimney. Like, it's inventive the way that they kind of explain his magic. And there's some heartfelt things too, where when he's in the interrogation room, it starts out as like a really wacky scene where he's talking to the cop, and all of a sudden Santa Claus pulls a G.I. Joe doll out of his coat, and this cop gets this like biggest look of shock on his face. And then Santa Claus pulls a different toy out of the other side of his coat, and the cop's eyes get bigger. And for this like 10 seconds of this movie, Santa's just pulling toys out of each side of his coat in sequence, and this cop just looks more and more shocked. And it turns out he's showing the cop the toy he wanted each year for Christmas. And then he's like, but this year you want something different. And then it's revealed that this cop has been estranged from his wife. And Santa Claus eventually convinces him to go back to her and tells her, like, oh no, she really does want you. And he's like, no, she doesn't. We got off to we ended very poorly. And then his phone rings and it's her, and Santa is like, you've got to answer that. And then he reunites this couple. So there are a couple of really nice moments in the movie like that, because the message of the movie is, having the Christmas spirit and belief. And, one of the most emotional scenes was the son is upset with the dad for dying. He's angry at him, and he wanted to tell him that he didn't get a chance to, because he's got it's like this 14-year-old kid. Is the kid from The Babysitter, if you guys saw that, the other Netflix movie. Which is funny because, Billy, earlier before we did the cast, you were saying that the movie Cam shares a lot of Netflix actors. I just realized that Netflix is a babysitter, along with this one, also feature that same male main character. I just realized that. So yes, a Netflix interconnected universe, apparently. And they're also little CGI elves, and they do the flossing dance move. I think that's what it's called.
I keep hearing that phrase, and I have no fucking clue what it is.
I believe it is rowing, except sideways.
Oh, you see, I thought it was when you take a towel after you bathe and you floss your ass crack.
That's what I always thought it was.
Well, yeah, that is what it is. That is what it is.
It's just in dance form.
That is, yeah. Hey! I didn't actually. I have not studied the dance move to see if a person is miming, if a CGI elf is miming flossing their ass crack with a towel. But I will double check that and get back to you.
Okay.
No, I mean, it's kind of an interesting movie because all the stuff without Santa just kind of sucks. It's boring. Doesn't really, it's every Christmas movie you've already seen. But everything with Kurt Russell as Santa is one of the most interestingly endearing things you might see in any Christmas movie of this year.
All right. Well, fair enough. I may watch it if I'm in the mood for something Christmassy and don't have standards.
Yeah, I mean, go in with no expectations, and you will enjoy the good parts and be indifferent to the bad parts, I suppose.
Well, that's something. I mean, indifferent. It's.
But again, like the Kurt Russell Santa Claus is what makes it. It's like a 90-minute movie, so it goes by.
Yeah,
it's quick and dirty. It goes by, and At the end, you'd be like, you know what, that was all right. Kurt Russell's great. The biggest takeaway is that he doesn't really dumb down his performance for a kids movie. It's still Kurt Russell. Somebody on Reddit said he curb stomps the performance through the pavement.
That's interesting.
Which is, just another way of saying he devours scenery and does a great job with his own interpretation of the role. So made that worth it for me.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead then and move along to Creed Tres or Dos.
Yeah, right. Creed 3.
Creed 2 was so good, we're going to just bypass and go straight to 3.
Creed 2 was so good, it was Creed 3.
Exactly.
So sad.
Creed 2, Creedier. Creed 3, Creed Harder.
Creed 2, the son of Scott Stapp.
I've had about 3 shots of gin so far, so...
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm on my way.
Yeah, you're not quite there. But...
Two Creed, Too Furious?
So...
Actually, yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. So here's the thing. Creed 2. What Creed 2 does is it kind of serves as a sequel to Creed and also a direct sequel to Rocky 4 in its own way as well.
Now, it should be noted that after the release of this film, Stallone came out and said, I'm pretty much done with the Rocky character. Now, whether or not that's true is we're going to see, because he said the same about Rambo and everything.
I think that the way this movie ends, it sets you up for a final Rocky movie. It really feels like that, but I don't feel that this felt like a final film.
Well, the way he kind of ended it, he has a moment with Adonis Creed, where he says, "This is your story now, kid."
Mm-hmm.
This is yours.
So what it tells me is you could just make another Creed film without him going forward if you wanted to, but I think you could easily make one more film with Rocky and close the book on him.
Okay, well, that's possible too. But
there's going to be a Creed movie based entirely on Creed, and then Stallone's going to just muscle his way in.
Hey, yo.
Oh, you good? I told you I wasn't gone.
There's gonna be a movie where Creed has to fight Rocky, and
it's basically Rocky 5, like the Tommy Gunn street fight.
He like knocks Rocky down, and Rocky breaks a hip.
I didn't hear no bell, but I did hear my ribs crack.
Or even better, it'll be like Rocky
Baby.
Balboa, where statistically they run it through computer simulation and find out that Rocky, even at his age, could still beat Adonis Creed.
Adonis is like headstrong. He's like, I gotta fight him, man.
Well, I was gonna bring this up. Like Rocky 5 was supposed to be the definitive ending. Then Rocky Balboa was supposed to be the definitive ending,
which made sense because Rocky 5 was a piece of shit.
Right, but now I assume Creed 3 he's gonna die or something.
Well, maybe not. I don't think we're ever
a new franchise with Drago's grandson,
which I will say,
Drago's son.
Yeah, I will say, if there's anything that this movie, that Creed 2, should be lauded for, and I mentioned this off recording, but I'll say it again, is it makes Rocky 4 more than just a joke film. Because Rocky 4 really is the movie where the formula finally went to straight comedy, basically. Unintentional comedy. Rocky 3 had some silly stuff, but it still had enough serious that you can more or less take it seriously.
Rocky 4 was straight goofy.
Which Rocky was the one with those straight up horny montage sequences between him and Creed?
That was Rocky 3.
That was 3, okay.
Yeah, Rocky 3 is where it was starting to transition away from being serious. Rocky... Well, actually, being honest, the first Rocky is the only film in the entire Rocky. What do you call it when there's 5? Pentilogy, where
I don't know.
Yeah, it's. I guess there's 6 because Rocky Balboa. Sextilogy.
That's
Quintilogy.
That's when you have 6 pornos in a row.
Okay. Yeah. Well, anyway. Point being, the first Rocky is honestly the only one that I consider to be a legitimately great film. Rocky 2 exists for one reason and one reason only. Rocky 2 exists because people were angry that Rocky didn't actually win at the end of Rocky.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why they made the Karate Kid 2 also.
But that's kind of the point of the movie, though.
Oh
Right,
yeah, the point is that
the match.
Right.
Yeah.
The point is that he stood up, and he may not have been, a champion,
the official victor,
but he won in life.
Exactly.
Yes.
And Rocky 2, though, Rocky 2 is just all about, but he needs to actually win now.
Well, here's the thing. Rocky 2 is a bit more of a comedy, like especially with him being irresponsible with his money and having to do the commercial
I've never
and all
really
that.
liked Rocky 2. I actually
think it's entertaining.
I think Rocky 1 is the only great film. Rocky 3 is entertaining.
It's entertaining as hell. Me and my friend all the time will be like, hey, woman, why don't you come over to my house tonight and show you what a real man is like?
And then Rocky 4 is fun as hell just because
it's Cold War.
It's so stupid.
Somebody took a syringe with the 80s in it and injected that movie.
What's great about Rocky 4 is that it's a movie where nowadays watching it, you actually feel legitimately empathetic towards the Russians just because of how assholish the Americans are being up to that point. And it's only after he kills Creed in the ring that you start to, root for Rocky. Because before that, you're like, why are they being so mean? All they're doing is wanting to have a boxing match.
Yeah, really. I have an interesting story about Rocky. I think I've already told you guys this. Rocky 4 is basically my first movie memory and my first memory.
Oh, really? Tell me about it.
In general. Like, I can remember walking down a hallway, and on video or television, my dad and my older brother were watching the montage sequence where it was There's No Easy Way Out from Rocky 4. And it was like Drago's face with lights around him, and then it cuts to Stallone driving the car, then it cuts to Creed falling, then it cuts back to Stallone. It's one of those quick cut things. That's my first memory, and my first movie memory was Rocky 4. So things kind of went in a weird way ever since for me. You know what I mean? Like that's just where it took off from there. My love of movies, and I guess my lust for life, I suppose. I don't fucking know about that, but
all right, Pop.
Yeah, right. But no, Ken is absolutely right. Like, Rocky 4 is a very goofy movie, but at the same time, it's an awesome movie.
It's no extremely goofy movie.
Yeah, right. It's not that, but it is a fucking awesomely that's not a word, but good. It's an awesomely goofy movie, but Creed 2 takes it to another level by reinterpreting and not retconning, but treating those events as if it were totally 100% straight serious. And specifically the aftermath of Rocky 4.
Absolutely. It really
specifically
does.
Stallone getting hurt.
I'm guessing, they probably focus a lot on Apollo's death, and
they focus on that. They focus on Rocky's concussion.
They don't mention any of the silly stuff.
No, they don't.
No, they don't. And actually, what's interesting is, so Ivan Drago was, I think most people will agree, one of the most one-dimensional villains in movie history. He exists because he's evil Russian. They even make him super evil by having him illegally take steroids.
That's the thing. I always thought Drago was kind of a victim in a way of the Russian system.
Right.
And I think that's something you read into it now, but in the 80s, it was meant to be these big bad Russians.
You're right. But there's a scene where he's nearing the end of his fight with Rocky. The crowd is turning on him. His coach guy is like, dude, they hate you now. What the hell? Fight back.
And his wife turns away.
And his wife turns away. And then he's like, I fight for me. And I was kind of like, yeah, that's damn right. You fight for you, buddy. Don't
exactly. Yeah. And so that's what they do. They seize on that. And they point out that in this film, they point out that as soon as the fight was over, Drago was completely abandoned, and he becomes essentially, he's forced to live.
He becomes an outcast, really. He's forced to live in a kind of a shitty, super cold apartment.
Is he in this movie? Dolph Lundgren's in this movie?
Yes. Yeah, he's Drago. He's back as Ivan Drago.
So, Bill, just to bring you up to speed, the person that Creed fights in this is Drago's son.
Which is, okay, it sounds like a terrible idea on paper. Doesn't
it sounds like a terrible
exactly.
It could easily have been, but they take it so seriously. And honestly, Dolph Lundgren delivers. I would argue this is one of his greatest performances.
That's good. It washed that kindergarten cop 2 out of your mouth.
Kind of, yeah, it does.
A career of amazing performances.
Exactly.
Come on, guys. Like, look, Dolph Lundgren. He's not the greatest actor in the world, but he does delivered some pretty fun performances.
Here's what I will say: in the way that Jean-Claude Van Johnson made you respect Jean-Claude Van Damme in a whole other angle,
which is hard to do because JCVD is kind of a dick.
Exactly, but because that did that, this does it in another way because it honestly, this is like if Dolph Lundgren could be like nominated for any kind of award. I'm not going to say Oscar, but if he could be, you know what, I would not put it past him to get maybe like a, I don't know, Golden Globe nomination or something.
Maybe
because
even that's a stretch,
that's pushing it. It's pushing it, but this is the closest he'll ever come to that. I'll say that.
Okay. I will say there were 2 scenes in this movie with Dolph Lundgren, or maybe 3 actually, where I thought it was pretty astounding. The first one was when he actually confronts Rocky for the first time after all these decades. He goes to Rocky's restaurant, and Rocky goes in the restaurant, and his maitre d' female is like, "Hey, Rocky, there's some guy here that's looking for you." And he's like, "Who is it?" She's like, "He said you'll know him when you see him." And so he's taking that long walk down the aisle. He just sees the back of Drago's head, and then you see Drago, and he's like, Rocky's like, "Is that you?"
Yeah.
Like even he's surprised, like, "What the fuck? You know, why are you here?"
And what you realize is that Drago has been nursing this hatred of Rocky for all of these years because he's very pig-headed. He doesn't take ownership over the fact that he played a part in his own self-destruction all those years behind.
That's a big part of this movie is pig-headedness too. Adonis has that in him as well.
Every male character in this has their moments of pig-headedness. And
what's cool is that almost all of them come around, even Drago and them, you know. Not to give anything away, but there is kind of an arc to each male character in this movie. And that was very wonderful to see. They have this conversation, and it's very tense. Rocky's, Drago asks him, "How come you have no pictures of our fight?" And Rocky's like, not of that fight, no. I'm not putting any pictures of that up there. That was too ugly, you know. And Drago's like, "You ruined my life, because of that fight," and blah blah blah. Well, I'm coming for your guy now,
He killed a man.
I know, but
well, it's that's the thing. This is all about, and honestly, as far as movies that are sort of unwriting the male chauvinistic stereotype, this movie is all about taking ownership and responsibility over your past mistakes.
Yeah, Adonis does so via 2 things. Like he does so through the birth of his new child. Well, not new. New, but yes, but the birth of his first child, and now about to be married to his girlfriend, and also through the what happened in the past with his the father he never knew, and that plays another part into this movie too. Is fatherless people, in a way, like whether it be not having a father literally or not having a father figuratively.
I wouldn't say fatherless per se. I would say an issue
distant?
of having a lost parent, because in this case, you have to remember, Ivan Drago sticks by his son, whereas Bridget Nielsen, who actually does appear in this movie, she abandoned Ivan and Ivan's and their child,
their son, yeah.
And
but the thing is, though, he's very strict. He's a strict parent. He wants his son to be tough and to that kind of thing. And it isn't until the end, really, where he starts to kind of embrace his son, like look, it's okay,
right? Well, fine. And he sees it, and that's the thing. He sees that as hard as he's been on his son, he realizes that his son's in the same position that he was, and he does not want his son to go through what he did, which was having everyone turn their backs on him.
Right. His son is actually a pretty good fighter in the movie. He doesn't kill anyone, but he's damn good. And
not only that, but his son shows these moments in the film where you realize that he's kind of doing this mostly because he loves his dad and he wants his dad to respect him and his dad's approval. And so even though Victor Drago, the son, is not like, he's clearly the antagonist of the film because
usually you have to have an antagonist,
right? Because Adonis has to fight him. Even though he's the antagonist, he doesn't really want to go through the fight because he wants to fight. He's going through the fight because he knows that that's what his dad expects him to do.
Yeah,
there's some deep shit in this movie.
It really goes places. It does. That's the interesting thing about these Rocky movies is I don't know what it is exactly about sports films or boxing films, to be more specific, or Rocky films, to be even more specific. But they're able to get at some raw nerves.
There's an inordinate amount of great boxing movies, and I think the reason for that is the simplicity of a organized fight, with rules behind it between two people, makes for a lot of different story elements because you can tell it in so many different ways. You've got Requiem for a Heavyweight. You've got even though it's absolutely bad history, Cinderella Man, I would argue, is a very well-made movie.
Right, you got Raging Bull, of course.
Raging Bull. Shit, yeah.
That's why I forgot. Yeah.
You've got that movie. What is it called? The something Ali. The Ali Maki. What was that movie called?
Oh yeah,
the Finnish movie.
Yeah, the happiest day in the life of Ali Maki.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Ali with Will Smith.
Yeah,
that was a great one.
What was that movie called?
That is the happiest day in the life of Ali Maki. That's actually a damn good boxing movie because it takes a complete.
I showed it to you. I'll let you guys watch it through, or I suggested it to you guys through Mubi, MUBI.
Yeah, Bill, I got to thank you for that. That was one fascinating little movie. If
it was
you guys
a great
haven't
little,
seen
very romantic, not just in terms of the love story, but also in terms of everything that was happening to this guy. And
it's a boxing movie about a boxer who really didn't care about boxing. He cared just because he cared more about the fact that he loves his girl.
And he wants to be a simple baker, and that's about it.
Yeah,
and he does boxing because he likes it. But
winning has almost nothing to do with his motivation.
Yeah.
which is fascinating. And yeah, if you haven't seen that, put that on your list of to do.
That was on my top 10, I think, of the year that it came out.
Understandable. That almost made my top 10.
It was a really good fun movie. But yes, these movies, these boxing movies, have that in common with them, and like you said, Ken, a very simple reason that is it's like this easy to understand conflict that's going on in the ring that is just perfect for showcasing internal struggle. You literally just got two guys or two girls, however you want to play it out, two women, two men, whatever, literally fist fighting with each other, but really the fight is secondary.
Come to think of it, isn't that like the whole conceit of Barton Fink is he's hired to write a B boxing movie and he's determined to make it the best he can do. Yeah. So boxing movies have a long storied history.
They're interesting. Yeah. Buster Keaton even did one, The Battling Butler. They've been around ever since film, really. Boxing is just that popular, and it's kind of a shame because Rocky 4 and 5 touched on, at least in the aftermath of his fight with Drago, the fact that Drago, and he even mentions this in Creed 2, Rocky says, that guy broke things in me that have never been fixed. And that's true. That pretty much knocked him out of boxing was that fight with Drago. He got too many hits to the head. He only came back for that one fight in Rocky Balboa.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off there, Bill.
What?
But I just read that the upcoming Rambo movie officially has a subtitle.
Uh-oh. What is it?
Last Blood.
Yeah, that's awesome, right?
No, that's dumb.
It's not the best subtitle, but it's not the worst title either. Well, really, the Rambo 4 should have ended it.
That's a perfect way.
Him just walking into he could have gone to that farmhouse at any point in his life. He never did. He only did after this final, or after this bloodbath that just ensued.
By the way, the movie takes place in Mexico, but it was shot in Bulgaria, so that's going to be interesting.
Oh boy, man, come on, Stallone. We don't need to see another Rambo. We got it. We got enough.
Shot in Bulgaria. Bulgaria is where you shoot
Mexico.
movies when you have no money. By the way,
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. There's great, there's great potential because you can make a movie cheap in Bulgaria, but
it doesn't speak well. Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. I think Last Blood is kind of really in tune with the tone of these movies in the latter day.
Maybe I don't know.
I'll tell you what. If Last Blood features gore as crazy as the last one, then I will at least enjoy laughing at how ridiculous the movie is.
That's the thing. Rambo 4, there was gore in it, but it was horrific.
It was so over the top that it was.
It was over the top, but it was cartoonish.
If you ever played
horrific.
If you ever played the video game Soldier of Fortune, where the entire conceit in the game was the crazy ways you could explode the human body,
yeah,
that's what it felt like to me. It felt like watching a video game.
Well, yeah, it was like that Indonesian movie, The Night Comes for Us, which is an action movie with a horror movie level of violence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, the guy gets attacked by a lady with a razor yo-yo thing, and it rips his hand in half, and he grabs his wrist and stares at his mutilated hand and screams at it while blood sprays in his face.
Oh, a razor yo-yo? So it was like Octopussy?
Yeah, kind of like that. Except better.
Oh god, that movie has so many what the fuck moments in it. It's insane. I would have loved to have seen it in IMAX or Dolby Atmos or something. Talk about an experience right there. There's this great bit where they're in a fucking SWAT car, and the main character, the protagonist of the movie, he's got a cop on each side of him. They both got weapons pointed at him, and they're crisscrossing in front of his face, and he's trying to hold them against him. But then he realizes, no, the better way to do this is to pull it closer to me, so that way the guns are pointing at each other. And he's pulling it toward, and the cops are like, no, and then boom, their faces explode.
Well, he tases the other guy holding the gun, and so
and that makes the other guy
he convulses and it shreds the dude's face. Although my favorite bit in that scene is when he pulls the grenades out of the guy's belt and then kicks him away. And then he suddenly realizes what he did, and he covers his face.
He's like, "Oh shit, we're in the same car."
Yeah, he blows him up, and the body flies backwards. And basically, you could have told me that they used diced ham as a prop and just rained it down over him, and I would have been like, "Yep, that's what it looked like. I believe you."
So Creed 2 has none of this in it, but we were talking about Rambo 5, Last Blood, and it's inevitable we're going to talk about gore.
Does Creed 2 have anything on the level of the one-take fight scene in the first one?
There are actually
there's some good shots. There's some good photography in this movie.
Yeah, there's some long shots in the movie that are pretty impressive. I will say that
it's more subdued from in a cinematography level. There's a lot of the good shots that I found took place in the desert, where he's training for his second fight with Victor.
Okay,
I loved that desert training sequence.
That was great. That was great. Yeah.
So the director Stephen Capel Jr. I was actually looking up to see what he had done before, and he hasn't done a lot of big name movies. So this is kind of his first larger budget production, and I honestly, for someone who hasn't, in fact, actually this might be his feature debut. Yeah,
it's pretty impressive if it is. In fact,
he's done some TV before, but and a bunch of short films, but this appears to be his and he did a mini-series documentary, but this is his feature film debut. So honestly, as a feature film debut, I mean, you know what? I think Creed 1 might have been a little bit more flashy from a filmmaking perspective, but this was very well made. And I can see a solid future for Stephen Capel Jr.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and move along to a movie that I'm sure all of you have been waiting to hear all about, which is The Possession of Hannah Grace with Nick Thune is in this movie?
I know zip about this.
What the fuck is comedian Nick Thune doing in this movie?
He is the guy with the beard, right?
That's his character's name?
I don't know. He's a guitar playing comedian who's very funny, though. I will say that.
I'm pretty sure I know who you're talking about, and he was by far he was the best character in the movie by a huge margin.
Yeah, he has a special on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, it's very funny.
Okay, yeah, no, I saw a couple of his bits, and they were actually really funny. He has some pretty good comedic timing, and his character's pretty funny too. But anyway,
sorry, I didn't mean to derail things. Go ahead.
No, I mean that's you reminded me of him when you said. So I'll be sure to speak on that. I wasn't supposed to see this, but I did a favor for Felix and swapped her to see this, and she had to see Robin Hood instead. So the jury is still at him. Who got the
shorter? Yeah. Your movie was shorter, at least.
My movie was shorter. No, she was like, "Hey, can we swap movies at some point? Because I just realized this movie has body contortion horror, and I absolutely do not do that." I said, "Fine, but you're not."
She just realized that a movie about possession has body contortion horror.
Well, I mean,
doesn't that go with the territory?
Well, not to the degree that it is in this movie. Like the trailer is a lot more like, spider walking and shit like that. Like, the person arcing their back on the bed as they're, getting exercise isn't, like it's the crab walking that does it. But I was like, yes, you don't get the girl with the girl in the spider's web. That's mine. You're taking Robin Hood if you want this deal. She said, fine. And if you haven't seen her review of Robin Hood on the site, it is a masterpiece. For one of the beers, she basically adds captions to every single IMDb picture attached to the movie.
Yes, that was a work of avant-garde genius.
Yes. So what is not a work of avant-garde genius is the film The Possession of Hannah Grace. It's an avant-garde slap to the face without the avant-garde. It's basically, it's actually kind of a shame because the idea behind the movie is not bad. It's a girl named Hannah Grace is possessed, and the movie opens with an exorcism, and the demon is so powerful that it kills two of the priests doing it, and then Hannah's dad is like, he's like, oh, I'm going to end this. And so he smothers her with a pillow. And the first unintentional bit of comedy in the movie is after he smothers her with a pillow, he looks at the pillow and it's embroidered with the Bible verse, "By his wounds we are healed." And it's like a really weird, like, I'm not sure what they were trying to do with that, but it didn't work. Anyway, months later, there is an ex-cop named Megan who is recovering from addiction to alcohol and pills. And she had a traumatic event where she failed to react and shoot a suspect that in turn gunned down her partner. So she has a lot of guilt. She's recovering from addiction, and her second chance is working at a morgue. It's at night, so, and she's basically just trying to, keep an even head and just get back to normal. And one of the cadavers that comes in is Hannah Grace. And the thing is that this corpse is still possessed, and it's looking for a new host. So I think that's an interesting kind of spin on the exorcism story, because it's not really an exorcism movie; it's a possession movie, and the whole thing is that throughout the night, this corpse is haunting her throughout the morgue and wants to possess her, and logically that pans out about as well as you might expect for a full-length film, because there is no logic. There's a couple of revolving characters, both all of which, some of which get killed by the demon. But the demon never actually tries to kill Megan, and you don't really know why. It's not explained. Basically, the thing is that the demon comes out of the cadaver comes out of the cabinet. What is that thing called where you load the bodies into the thing and you close the door?
I usually just call it a freezer.
I
almost said meat locker, which is not correct.
Yeah.
We'll call it. I don't know. I didn't appear to be cold in there. Maybe it was. I don't know. The demon, the cadaver will come out. It'll kill somebody, which partially heals it because they absorb their life energy or something, and then goes back into the cabinet. And that was one of the dumbest parts of the movie, is that every time she's like, "Oh, something spooky," she goes and checks on the body, and it's still there. So somehow this demon is running around killing people and then sneaking back into the freezer before anybody notices. And it's just kind of like, ooh. It's like, I got home before bedtime. But there's a little bit of good setup to the visual aspect of the movie. Like the setting is good. Like it's in a morgue. Everything is very cold and saline and kind of dark and claustrophobic. And the movie does a lot of setup in the very first act by showing how everything is motion activated. And there's some good photography in this sequence where she washes her hands and then she walks past the hand dryer and the hand dryer goes off, or she walks into a room and the lights flicker on. So you get this setup where, if something turns on, something's there. But if she's standing in this room and something turns on in the next room, you feel like something is happening over in there. So you get, it's setting up for like this tension when you wonder where something else is inside the building. And there's also a scene where this guy is asking to be let in, and she's like, no, get out of here. You need to have your badge. I'm going to call security. And he walks away, just this homeless guy. And then Nick Thune's character shows up and he's like, hey, he's an EMT. He's like, hey, I'm alone. Can you help me get this body out? And she walks out of the loading bay to help him. And then you see the same guy, the homeless guy, run inside. And so then that somebody else is in there with her, which is a good setup for tension. And you'll notice I keep saying it's a good setup for tension because it doesn't ever pay off on this good tension. Like it's, this homeless guy is Hannah Grace's dad and he just wants to burn the body. So, okay, that's kind of stupid. Like they had this opportunity to have this big thing where like, there's definitely somebody else in there with her. And there's also maybe a demon in there with her. And there's an interplay of what's actually going to get her. But that's a less, the dad thing is a less than 10-minute later plot development. The other big disappointment is that Megan's drug addiction and everything, she's like, it's a new start and everything like that. The movie heavily implies that the cadaver, the possessed cadaver, is an allegory for her addiction and her recovery from addiction.
Okay.
And that the demon is manifesting itself as kind of this metaphorical demon of hers that she has. And at one point, Stephen said, Hannah Grace, she really suffered from depression and anxiety, and it just got so powerful that it overtook her and allowed the demon to take hold. It's like, okay, that's cool. Like, if you let whatever is controlling you take full control, then it's a quote unquote demon that kills you. But then at the very end, it's like, nope, it's a real demon, and there's a lot of violence, and everything is scary and demonic. And forget about that thing we set up in the first act. It almost feels like this was I want to say seems like it was rewritten, but it only has one credited screenwriter, or like the studio mandated something different. It's so weird how this movie just kind of builds towards something profoundly symbolic and then just kind of forgets about it. The acting wasn't very good except for Nick Thune. I mean, he was just great. His character is great. At one point he's like, hey,
comedic relief.
What?
Comedic relief?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, he's not really that comedic. The comedic relief is a security guard. This guy who kind of looks like T.J. Miller with curly red hair instead. He clearly it's actually, this is probably the one time in the movie that I laughed really hard. And it's a jump scare where the security guard really likes her, obviously, and he's like, oh, hey, welcome to the job, and he's like talking to her. He's like, well, let me know if you need anything. And then later on, she's loading a body into the freezer, and there's a slight pan to the left, and then he comes up from behind the door, like, hey, just checking up on you. And there's this jump scare sound as he comes up. So if you want to imagine this smiling T.J. Miller looking ginger slowly rising from behind a freezer door with a big grin on his face, that's what this jump scare was.
Sounds like an Edgar Allan Poe poem.
Yeah.
It's from behind my freezer door.
Yeah. I can't think of what would rhyme with door right now, but
both the possession of Hannah. Yeah, I was going to say Nevermore. Beat me too.
Nevermore's easy though.
Tell that to Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah, really. That took him several coffee breaks.
Yeah,
and he used that line over and over again.
Easy in the sense of directly quoting Edgar Allan Poe.
Lenore. And Lenore. He had to make sure. Yeah.
Who's that rapping on my freezer door?
From behind the steel of my freezer door.
Yeah, right.
the jump scares are bad in this movie because they're badly edited and they don't make sense. And this is actually something that I spotted. I followed this movie's embargo very closely, and after I took this movie, I was like, all right, how fucked am I with this shitty movie? And I watched very carefully. This movie was not screened for critics. In fact, actually, no, I think it was screened, but it might have been only in a couple places because the reviews only just started showing up about a half hour before it was screening in my area. So they screened
it for Armand White, and that was it.
What did he say?
I haven't read his review of it. I'm just saying he would be the one guy that would give this a positive spin.
Yeah, no, I'm saying what would he say about that in this situation?
You would say this was a great takedown of the Obama
administration. I am looking up to see
why Obama does not represent the best of blacks.
You probably should.
I don't know. He'd say something like that. This is my review of The Possession of Hannah Grace.
He's actually too busy right now ripping on movies like If Beale Street Could Talk. So,
that's I can imagine that would be riper territory for him. So the jump scares are bad in this movie, and so what I was saying is I was researching the movie, and there's Entertainment Weekly had an exclusive scene. Ooh, you guys have seen the trailer, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think before a YouTube video, I probably did.
Okay. It was a scene where she's in the bathroom and then a rubber band ball rolls into the stall and then a demonic hand reaches in and grabs it for a jump scare. In this scene, she sees the rubber band ball roll into the stall, and then she hears the hairdryer turn on, which, as we established earlier, that means something walked past it. Ooh, spooky. And so she leans down and looks underneath the stall, and you get a perspective shot of her looking at the stall, so looking out into the bathroom, and then you get the jump scare of the hand coming in from the side of the screen. The perspective changes on the side of the screen and grabs the ball. So the reason this doesn't work is because if she had been looking out from under the stall, she would have seen the demon standing there. But the way that this movie lays it out in terms of perspective and position, basically a hand just comes out of nowhere and grabs it. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Sure.
Repeat that again?
Okay, so...
No, I'm kidding. No, I was just fucking with you.
Okay. Does that make sense, though?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I was just being silly.
Everything, a lot of the jump scares in this movie are jump scares for the audience because they're things that the character within the realm of this movie would have already seen before the soundtrack blasts sound in your ears to tell you that you should be scared. When she sees the dad standing outside the hospital, she's like, hears something, and she's like looking outside, and there's a slight pan to the left, and boom, he's standing right there with his face pressed against the window. And there are several jump scares like this where the characters should have seen this coming, but they didn't because the audience needs to be frightened by a jump scare. And the movie is so frightened of its own inability to be scary that it has to rely on jump scares. And I think if the movie would have relied on the atmosphere and the setting of, things turning on, and maybe not even a full-length film, but like a short film or something, like there's this great atmospheric setup that it just doesn't ever deliver on. But I was going to mention Nick Thune's character. He has this great character moment where he's like, "Hey, can I ask you something? Tell me if this is too personal, but why are you working here? You're smart. You're obviously very driven." Because she's a former cop, she's obviously researching all this stuff and finding prints for Hannah and figuring things out. And he's like, and she kind of looks at him. He's like, well, he pulls out his phone and is like, this is my son. For a while I had a heavy drinking problem and I was an asshole and I was lying and cheating and fake to everybody. And then I had him, and it made me want to stop doing all that stuff. So he has this very revealing character moment where he talks about himself, but he also has this really kind of down to earth, air about him where he's like, hey, just promise me something. If you ever want to talk, I'm right here for you. And then he fist bumps her or high fives her or whatever. And then the next scene, he fucking dies. So they kind of deflate all that character moment and everything good about his character just for the fact that it's been 30 minutes since the last kill scene. Let's kill somebody again. It's just not a good movie.
If this is the end of the episode, I would have hit stop recording right there.
It's one of those movies where I got out of it and I was like, he's like, oh, you know what? That was pretty bad, but not so bad that I have any strong feelings on it. And then I kept thinking about it. It's like, you know what? Fuck that movie. I I want to have strong emotions about it because there's no reason that a movie should be that poorly made. There's no reason that a movie should fail that much on delivering a thematic swing to its characters. It's scary movies need to stop sucking. Like, we can do better than this.
Well,
I don't know. It's frustrating. It was only an 85-minute movie, and it felt much longer. much longer.
Couldn't even make it to 90 minutes, huh?
Couldn't even make it to 90 minutes. I'm looking at my notes here for it. Oh, the overhead lights look like an upside down cross because symbolism.
Oh, okay.
There's a really shitty camera shake effect when possessed Hannah Grace kills people.
I mean, it seems like every few years you get one of these movies, because there was like what the fuck was it called? The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
That was a good one.
There was another one. That was a really bad one.
The Devil Inside.
That's the one. Yep.
The one that so that was the one that ended. It was a mockumentary, or not a mockumentary, but
it was like a found footage.
Yeah, found footage. Thank you. And it ends with like a car accident, and then it told you to go to a fucking YouTube video to see the end of the story, or a website with the video.
Oh.
Yeah. And as of now, that website is no longer active. So if you're gonna watch this movie today, if you were to go online and find it or torrent it or rent it, and it's like, ooh, what's gonna happen next? And you type in the URL, you could go onto the Space Jam website and still click around, but you can't see how the Devil Inside ends. What?
I could be wrong, but I think the Space Jam website is finally defunct. I don't recall. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that it's been mirrored a lot of places, but the official Space Jam website, I think they did take it down, and I'm pretty sure they took it down specifically because of the notoriety of the fact that it was
still up. Yeah.
Well, you know what? There's not a mirror of the conclusion of the Devil Inside.
I take it back. I just Googled Space Jam website, and the WarnerBrothers.com archive, it's not listed as it's still there. They have the whole Flash cartoon shit and everything.
Yep. So yes, you can visit the Space Jam website archive, but you cannot see how the Devil Inside ends.
Wow. I just pulled up the site. It's been a long time since I've been here. Because I remember someone telling me that it was still up 10 years ago, and I thought that was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a Geocities website.
I'm trying to think of how the possession of Hannah Grace ends.
GeoCity.
Yeah,
we used to call it, we would call it GeoCities back in the day. But
what's the right way to say it?
I said I don't know, but we called it GeoCities.
I called it GeoCity too.
How about it's dead so it doesn't fucking matter?
Well, I was going to say, here's the thing. This is a huge aside from whatever the fuck Hannah Rose, but
Hannah Grace.
It's so revealing that, not revealing, but it's Angel Fire and GeoCities hosted our teenage awkwardness and shit that should be buried and forgotten and completely wiped off the internet forever. So thank God both of those websites don't exist anymore.
And LiveJournal after that.
Right, yeah.
MySpace. But those are still sort of...
MySpace still exists, I think.
MySpace is still owned by Justin Timberlake, right?
If you're done talking about Hannah Rose, this does make for an interesting segue.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I need to talk about it anymore. I forgot how it ends.
This is
kills the demon. But yeah, go ahead.
I think this is an interesting segue into Shrek Retold.
Yes,
because you can't talk about this movie without talking about the history of Shrek on the internet.
Okay, go ahead.
And how so Shrek, I know since Steven Hillenburg recently passed, a lot of people are kind of celebrating the fact that SpongeBob is so ingrained in meme culture. Shrek is the same way. Like Shrek memes have been around forever. You got Shrek is love, Shrek is life, and all this stuff.
You've got the whole thing with that All-Star song being...
Well, actually, here's what's interesting, and I think Bill A. might be the only one that knows what I'm talking about. Tim and Eric's Shrek 3 campaign.
Oh, I know about this.
Do you remember that, Bill?
No, I don't think I do. Well, explain it a little bit.
When Shrek 3 was coming out, Tim and Eric made all these goofy intentionally satirical promotion videos for Shrek 3, urging people to go see Shrek 3 and shit. And it was your typical Tim and Eric like publicity stunt thing. Like they were just fucking around on. I think they were uploading the videos to MySpace at the time because it was like 2007,
Right?
But so Shrek and the internet have always kind of been a thing, and I don't know why, but before the broadcast. So what Shrek, for those who don't know, Shrek Retold, you can go watch it right now on YouTube for free. It's a full length movie of several different, it's a chain movie essentially, but a chain movie that follows loosely the plot of the movie Shrek.
Well, not even loosely, it's a direct remake almost down to the lines.
Well, that's what we're going to get into. That's what we're going to get into is, so they got all these different contributors and creators, animators, live action, you name it. Like this shit, I think there's even a stop motion segment, isn't there?
I think so, yeah.
There you got like all types of forms of visual storytelling going on.
The reason
here.
I say I think so is because this movie is what drugs look like, probably.
It's a trippy fucking movie. But I want to point out something Ken said before we went live, which is he brought up the shot for shot Raiders of the Lost Ark remake. Mm-hmm. You got stuff like our RoboCop remake and all that. Those are made by people that like the movie that they're paying homage to. I have a distinct feeling there's a lot of people that contribute to this that do not give a flying fuck about Shrek, and it shows because this is just chaos. Like,
see, that makes me more interested because I also do not give a flying fuck about Shrek.
That's why I'm saying though is like there are people and like there's certain animators and contributors to this that are clearly mocking Shrek. Like this is not a love letter to Shrek. This is a love letter to Shrek's again like, the meme culture. Like,
because I'll be honest, I've had way more fun with the memes than I ever have with the movie.
The Shrek is love, Shrek is life.
Yes, as far as I'm concerned, that's a better movie.
So I do want to point out though that this is, I mean, it's not entirely. I mean, it is some of all of those things. It is some parody. It is some riff on the culture, and there are some scenes that genuinely feel reverent of the source material. Like there's, I think Will Ashton beat me to the punch in terms of saying it, is that the scenes that are supposed to be dramatic really, really actually nail it, even in the sense that they're, even considering the fact that they are made in a way that's a little bit wackier. Mm-hmm. Like there's the sequence where Donkey finds out that Fiona is an ogre, but it's filmed in live action, including the guy playing Donkey, who I don't think is costumed in any way to make him look like a donkey. He's just a guy. Yeah. But the movie is acted surprisingly dramatically, or the scene is acted surprisingly dramatically. Then you have other scenes that are very bizarre in the way they're shot, or the way that they're animated, and it's almost grotesque.
Yes, I can't argue with that.
I think one of my favorite sequences was in the castle where Donkey is talking to Dragon, and Shrek enters the room by pushing himself through a crack in the wall, and he says, slithers through it, and it's so weird, but it's so great.
Oh, this movie, this probably is a pitfall of a lot of these collaboration remake of movie things, is that you probably got to watch it multiple times to remember every segment, because it's like you compared to being on drugs. It's like a fever dream. You're just being assaulted with all of this chaos at once, and all of a sudden you'll be sitting there watching it, and fucking Chris Chan shows up. Now, if you don't know who Chris Chan is, you need to Google that. That's a whole discussion. We don't have time for that right now.
So how did they do this? Is every single shot of the film a different like contributor, or is it?
It's like every couple scenes. It's every scene basically.
So,
I guess.
So are there some scenes that are like a few minutes long that are one person, or is it a thing where it's like, at any moment this can switch to a completely different person?
The latter, for sure.
Well, both.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, so the donkey realizes Fiona is an ogre. That scene is in its entirety one creator.
Okay.
But then Shrek having his conversation about ogres having layers, I think that's 4 or 5 different.
Yeah.
Which is like every 30 seconds or so it changes.
Okay, so it's more chaotic. I was just wondering if it was something where they set parameters, or if they just went for whatever the fit to what they were looking to do.
Yeah, I mean it's over. So it's this was born from an event called Shrek Fest.
And these people, well, it's interesting because I watched a YouTube video about this, and these people are not like ironic Shrek fans. They actually like Shrek.
Yeah. Like, I think even the creator, he even was asked if it was ironic. And he's like, can you love ice cream ironically? I wouldn't eat ice cream ironically. That was his response to that question. So, I mean, it's genuine love for Shrek. And over 200 of these people worked together to make this thing.
Shrek is... I wouldn't say ice cream, because ice cream.
I thought you were going to say Shrek is love.
I thought you were going to say that too.
Ice cream is objectively tasty. I would say it's like flaming hot Cheetos, in that it's a thing where you're not even sure if you like what you're having, but you've got to eat the whole goddamn bag.
That's your interpretation of how you feel. He loves Shrek. Like, he organizes conventions every year based around Shrek.
I just don't get that.
I mean,
here's the thing. No. Well, here's the thing. I do appreciate the fact that even though he genuinely loves this thing, he didn't cut any creators that were being cynical about it or mocking Shrek in the Shrek Retold. Like, everybody that contributed got their piece in there, as far as I know.
Okay.
Well, I don't know about that, but I want to push back a little bit against the ironic thing, because I think that, well, I mean, maybe not push back, but like even the people that were ironic, they have some kind of strong feeling about Shrek. So this collaboration is everybody with something to say about how they feel about Shrek and how it's affected them, has kind of been part of this big creative project. Because there's a lot of commentary on the themes and stuff as well. Like, you can kind of see some of it in the way that parts of this are animated. And I've seen this like 2 times, like 2.5 times now. I keep revisiting it. It's just
I need to rewatch it. Yeah, I need to rewatch it, because again, it kind of flies by, especially in certain parts where it is like a new contributor every 30 seconds. It's hard to take it all in one viewing, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think based on this conversation, I will go ahead and watch it, especially because I haven't watched the original Shrek for probably well over a decade at this point.
If you remember the story beats, I
remember the story beats. Here's the thing. There was a period of time where I remember at one point actually enjoying Shrek, but every time I watched it after that, I liked it a little less. And then I got to the point where I started actively not liking it.
Shrek 2 has a lot of good jokes in it.
I just did not like Shrek 2, like, at all. And the only thing Shrek 2 has going for it is
I think, Hawk and I were probably a lot younger when we saw it the first time.
I think we were all a lot younger when we saw it the first time.
Well, yeah, obviously. But, I mean, we were younger than Ken was.
I mean, I'm the oldest one here. So yeah, I get it. Yeah,
it was like I was probably 12 or 13 when that movie came out.
Yeah, I'm younger than you are, so I was,
Meanwhile, when Shrek came out, let's see, what was that, like 2000?
I want to say it was 2001, the first Shrek.
2001, because I think it predated The Cat in the Hat.
Oh, okay, yeah, because, all right, so 2001, so I was in my sophomore year of high school then. So that was deep into, well, here's the thing. That was deep into the period where I was kind of rejecting animated films, but at the time I actually made an exception for Shrek, and then slowly I started to hate it.
The buzz around that movie was pretty huge at the time.
Right, because it was really the first animated, like CG animated movie that the humor was basically more for adults than it was for children.
They take a lot of shots at Disney fairy tale kind of stuff.
So maybe that's it. Maybe my teenage self felt that it seemed like it was taking chances, and then over time I discovered the holes in that and realized that it was really, in doing so, it was creating its own template, and a template that was far less interesting than what Pixar had.
Yeah, I guess I was a little bit different, because when I first watched it, I was like, hey, this movie is shitting on Snow White because there's a song where she sings to the bird and the bird explodes because it tries to sing too high of a note. That
was funny. That was funny. Yeah.
Or I didn't realize until years later that Lord Farquaad was just a
fuckwad.
It's a play on the word fuckwad.
Oh, I just now realized that.
Yeah,
wow.
right. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, it goes without saying. I've fuckwad. I mean, we were even in high school. I'm pretty sure we were calling him Lord Fuckwad.
So when Shrek notices the giant castle and says maybe he's compensating for something, that's a great joke if you're a
penis joke.
Adult, because it's what?
It's a penis joke.
It's penis joke, but it's also a joke that he's short, so he has a big castle. So it works.
Right, that's how they got away with making that joke, because if the censors in the studio said, "Are you making a penis joke?" They said, "No, he's short."
Which is in that sense, it's kind of genius writing.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'd go that far, but
it's immensely clever.
it's
Why is Bill A laughing from a distance?
Oh, because I'm leaning back in my chair.
Oh, okay. I was like, he just laughs from across the room.
But as we go on at this point, I will commit to watching Shrek Untold at some point in the next.
It's called Shrek. Well, no, it's called Shrek
Dracula Untold.
But here, I called it Shrek Reborn for like a week before it came out, and then I watched it. I was like, "Oh, it's called Shrek Retold." Okay.
Yeah.
The movie also features 3 new renditions of the 3 major songs in the movie.
Did they do the Proclaimers song? Did they do "I'm on My Way"?
No, they did All Star, Hallelujah, and I'm a Believer.
Yes. Okay. And as again, I brought up Tim and Eric. Let's talk about Hallelujah. So Hallelujah in Shrek is sort of this emotional montage of everybody has split up and Fiona's off about to marry Lord Farquaad, and Shrek tells Donkey to fuck off, so he's somewhere, and they play this sad it's a Leonard Cohen song, right?
I don't know.
Ken would know.
It is. It's a Leonard Cohen song. Not only that, but it's a song that was covered so much that at one point Leonard Cohen literally reached out to ask people to stop covering it.
Yeah.
Well, in this movie, it's got the greatest cover of all time by AKA the puppet guy from Tim and Eric. David Liebehart appears in this, which I had no idea that was going to happen. I popped like a regular mark for that one.
Yep, same.
Wrestling references. Which Shrek does have a wrestling scene in it.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Keep going. I feel like I've said all there is to say about it. Like,
I mean, talk about why the David Liebehart segment was so good.
He's not a terrible singer.
He's not a terrible singer, but like it's such a heartfelt song. But with David Liebehart, like playing with this shitty paper mache Shrek and singing the song, it still managed to be an incredibly sweet song.
Yes, but also I think the casting of David Liebehart to do that is, again, to my point, mocking Shrek or trying to make a mockery of this whole thing.
I would disagree on that one specifically.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I think watching it the second time, the first time I watched it, I was like, "Oh my god, this is so hilarious!" David Liebehart is singing. The second time, though, I was like, "There's something bizarrely sweet about this weird guy." It kind of encapsulates. He's singing the song. It kind of encapsulates the theme of Shrek as being an outcast trying to find love. I don't know. But then the finale, "I'm a Believer," is sung by a YouTuber named Hot Dad. And he does a synth pop cover of "I'm a Believer," which is legitimately kind of fantastic. But if you haven't visited Hot Dad's YouTube channel, it's really funny because he does something called an inverted cover. So he does an inverted cover of Coldplay's "Yellow," where he plays the music all the same way, but he sings the lyrics with the words in reverse order.
What?
So, the words are not backwards, but he plays the words in reverse order.
Right.
Which is odd. It's I'm not sure how well the joke sustained itself over multiple songs, but it's kind of funny when you first hear it. Then the cover of All Stars is totally different. And
who does that?
What?
Who does that cover?
I can't remember.
It's like a somber acoustic cover, isn't it?
I mean, it's not somber. It's kind of like it's whimsical.
It's got like
tempo is different. It's like a folksy.
Yeah.
Oh, so it was done by Beverly Loughlin.
No, that would be weird, right? Look up All Star Shrek Retold cover, because for the 5 people that listen to this podcast, I want them to be able to get the link to the song. I ran into the guy on it's Kevin Gonring, Phony, and 3GI. Oh, 3GI is the production company. So Kevin Gonring and Phony, Fauxny.
Okay.
I ran into the guy on Twitter or on Reddit, and I told him, like, I really liked how the song felt like it was kind of this big heartfelt thing that was building towards something great. He's like, yeah, I mean, I want it to be kind of whimsical, but also kind of capture all the themes of the story. The biggest reason I want to talk about Shrek Retold on this podcast is because this is not my words, but somebody else on the internet. It is a celebration of the beauty of internet collaboration. Because you have all these people, more than 200 people coming together and making something that they feel passionately about, and the way that it comes together in a way that is, I don't want to say coherently edited. It's coherently edited, but in an incoherent way. It's an extremely bizarre.
When you smash cut from one style to the other, I mean, yeah, you can't you can assemble it any way you want, but it's still going to feel like a smash cut to a different style.
Right. It's jarring, but as far as I can tell, the beats of the plot are almost identical to the movie. And I might just, if I'm doing anything tonight where I'm idle, I can put the Retold up on one screen and the Netflix Shrek on another screen and play them side by side and see how much they match up.
Are they? Yeah, I was going to say, they're the same length, because there's a lot in some of the contributions. There's a lot of improv. Some of them don't. Some of them do follow the line or the movie line for line. Some of them don't. So,
yeah. So Shrek Retold is 1 hour, 30 minutes, and 6 seconds.
And Shrek is 1 hour and 35. So
it's actually shorter, unless the credits. The credits could. Yeah, play a part in that.
Well, the ending of Shrek Retold has a music video and then the credits. The credits are probably shorter. The music video might make up for that.
Actually, according to the Wikipedia, Shrek is 90 minutes, so it's roughly the same length.
I'm going off of. Well, you know what? That's what I'll do. I will play them side by side, and we'll see what happens. We'll report back. Yeah, I said it before we started recording. Like, Shrek Retold might actually make it onto my end of the year top 10 list. I really got a big kick off of the movie's vibe.
With the lack of movies I've seen this year, it might make mine. I don't know. I need to rewatch it though.
I've seen less than 10 movies this year, so it'll probably be on my list.
You've seen what? Yeah.
No, you've probably seen more than 10, like maybe 12 or so, but
I've seen like 15, including this one. I don't know.
Bill, we got to get you a Letterboxd. It's free.
What is that's just a review thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like a rating social network.
Well, I mean, but you can get the way I use it is to keep track. So if somebody's like, "What's the best movie you've seen lately?" It's like, I don't know. I saw like 5 this week. Let me get on my Letterboxd and try to remember what they were.
See, I just go to Wikipedia and I type in 2018 in film, and I'm like, "Oh, I saw that movie."
Yeah,
but not everything is shitty ones like the Smurfs thing, like whatever. You get all the mainstream ones.
Yeah,
15, including Shrek Retold. But I'm too busy watching Sorry to Bother You on a loop.
Yeah, I don't blame you for that.
That's a good one.
That's still probably in my top 5 at least.
That's most likely going to be my number 1. Spoilers.
Okay. Yeah, I think that one's kind of gotten pushed a little bit back. With Mandy and Blind Spotting. If you guys haven't seen, I know Bill A, you've seen it, right?
Blind Spotting was this year or last year?
That was this year.
Okay, I need to. I want to watch that.
Yeah, Blind Spotting is
you guys are crazy
really
about it.
Fucking something. Yeah, it's terrific.
I almost don't want to watch Blind Spotting for a while just because you guys have built it up so much that I can't imagine it living up to the hype. And that's no insult. That's just like you guys have been. I mean, going crazy on it.
Yeah, I've been sucking this movie's dick ever since it came out. I'm not ashamed of it.
So go watch Shrek Retold. It's great. Sorry to bother you. Just got added to Hulu. If you guys don't know.
Oh, nice.
And our listeners.
Shoot. Nice.
Yep.
I referenced "Sorry to Bother You" in a work-related thing, and
nobody got it.
Not a single person got it, and they probably will never. Even though the building I work in happens to have a lot of call center aspects to it, so they would definitely get a lot out of it.
What was the reference?
Specifically, it was the whole concept of it's the whole concept of when he's talking to a person, it's like he's transported to the room that person's in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which is a great thing.
And we were actually having a discussion on putting yourself in the shoes of the person you're talking to.
Oh,
okay.
And that's very close to what he does in those scenes. And to me, that's one of the most unique visualizations of that concept.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. So we've talked about the movies we're going to talk about, haven't we?
Yeah, nobody's going to go see Wreck-It Ralph 2.
We actually, no, we actually followed format.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were organized.
Well, let me just say right off the bat, I do need to explain, because we are a movie discussion podcast, why I have no plans to watch Wreck-It Ralph 2. And I'm just going to go ahead and say, because I don't get why the sequel exists.
Money!
Other than that.
More money. There's no reason.
Yeah, and by the way, my biggest problem is that the first Wreck-It Ralph, they couldn't even come up with enough of a story in the first film to make it make sense to me.
I like the first Wreck-It Ralph.
I mean, it's
I know.
Good. I feel like.
Can I say this? I think that the criticism of the trailers lied to me, and I thought it was going to be a big game jumping free for all. Like, I don't think that's a valid criticism. You can get mad about it, sure, but I don't think that's a valid criticism against the movie itself. The movie.
My problem is that the entire last 2/3 of the movie takes place within Sugar Rush, and I think Sarah Silverman's character might be the most obnoxious character I've seen in a modern American film.
Oh God. I have some other movies to suggest to you that will kick that one straight up into the upper echelons of good.
Oh, please do tell.
The entirety of Smurfs: The Lost Village.
Oh yeah, you watch a lot of trashy kids movies.
Yeah.
Look,
Except
it's not because I fucking want to. I get assigned to them for this site.
You get assigned to them because you have a penchant for pain. And
I'm pretty sure Smurfs: The Lost Village is not my choice. I think it was Zach like, hey, can you watch this one because Ken has to watch some other bullshit that came out this month that nobody else would touch with it.
Yeah. Well, that and let's be honest.
That might have been the month that like God's Not Dead 2 or something came out. And
let's be honest, Hawk. When it comes to movies, you are the girl who can't say no.
Yeah, I mean, eventually I'll find out what I can say no to, but I haven't yet.
Have you seen Trash Humpers?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, keep going.
So you will watch just about anything then, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Trash Humpers when Bill Leon talked about it, and I was like, "Wow, what the fuck is this?" And so I did.
I thought I talked about it. I don't remember who talked about it.
I think it was both of you guys. This is like 4 years ago. This is like before Spring Breakers.
Yeah,
I had heard it. Yeah, I had heard about it from the YouTuber Kyle Colgren, who used to be Owen Citizen on That Guy with the Glasses. He had made a video about Trash Humpers, and then Bill on the podcast showed off his DVD of it. And at some point I was like, you know what? I'm going to sit down and watch Trash Humpers. And then 2 hours later, I'm just like, kill me.
Well, I don't have a DVD of Trash Humpers.
Who do you have the VHS, Bill? The
No, I
limited
don't.
edition
No,
VHS, yeah.
Although I will say that oftentimes my penchant for watching trash does pay off, because I am reviewing Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse this month for the site.
Hey,
all right.
I'm excited about that. I think that's going to be really cool.
I'm really excited.
In fact,
Actually,
I just saw Venom.
You actually have a really amazing system, Hawk, in that you voluntarily take the worst of the worst, because that really does earn you the right to get the best of the best when you want it.
Yes.
Oh yes, there's a certain degree of calculatedness to what I do.
Yeah, it's a method to your madness.
So I saw Venom. Just quick, brief thoughts on that. Tom Hardy and Venom, they're the best thing in the fucking movie. Before Venom actually comes into the movie, I had so many problems because I know too much about Spider-Man.
It's super boring.
Well, it's not even that. Yes, it is, but it's not just that. It's the references to the Spider-Man universe that shouldn't fucking be there at all, because this is not connected to Spider-Man in any way, shape, or form. And
it is.
I know Tom Hardy wants this to become part of the MCU, but it's not going to happen.
Because Spider-Man is still owned by Sony, like the
film rights. Yes.
Well, Homecoming was essentially Marvel
I'm aware of that. I'm aware of that.
Yeah. So the end game is for Tom Holland Spider-Man to face off against Venom. This is technically in universe, in kind of like an alternate branch of it, so to speak.
They did a very poor job of establishing that.
Well, they did, because probably they can't really make themselves part of the it's this weird thing.
Can't. Yeah, that's the thing.
They can't be part of the MCU, but Tom Holland Spider-Man technically is not a part of the MCU. He's on loan.
It takes place in fucking California, and he talks about how he used to live in New York, and I'm like, so did he know Peter Parker then?
Venom is a hot mess that has the only saving grace is the fact that Venom is kind of a hilarious character.
The fight in the apartment is good. The motorcycle chase is great.
I'm glad you liked a lot of people online said that the motorcycle chase was awful, but I thought that was a lot of fun.
That was fun.
But the fact of the matter is, the best Venom movie of the year was Upgrade.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait.
All right.
Yeah.
Wait.
There's no way to it. It truly is. Can you think
Take a
of
load off, man.
Can you think of a movie like that captures the spirit of that concept better than Upgrade? That came out this year.
This year.
Upgrade. I've never heard of that.
What?
What?
What's
Didn't
Upgrade?
we review it? Upgrade.
Upgrade.
Was I here? I might not have.
That's the dude that gets the computer chip. The guy that looks like Tom Hardy.
Logan Marshall Green.
That's the other thing. It's the movie with Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy.
And it basically, the concept, Bill, is he becomes paralyzed, and this Steve Jobs-ish kind of dude says, I can install a microchip in your spine that'll let you walk again. And he finds out that it also talks to him and slowly takes over him. So.
Okay. All right.
Bill, you would love Upgrade. It is.
It was also made for like $4 million, so it's fascinating how much they got out of the movie considering the budget.
Allegedly made for 4, looks like 40 plus.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
It's really a damn good movie, and it didn't do very well at the box office, which is shameful because it's one of the best Blumhouse movies of the year.
Oh, it did fine.
In fact, I would say it's the best Blumhouse movie of the year.
Oh, I don't know. You haven't seen Cam yet.
Oh, is that Blumhouse?
Yeah, it's Blumhouse. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, good night, everybody.